Call the meeting to order. Okay, let's call the meeting to order.
Okay.
All right, approval of the minutes for August 16, 2022. Do I have a motion?
Yes, you do. I agree.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in
Is that-
favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, public comment.
I haven't received it.
Jen?
I'm good
Good, okay,
for the moment.
for the moment.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to utility release requests dispute. My goodness.
This is a weekly test of the emergency alert system.
I'll be right back.
Okay,
Uh-oh. That didn't sound good.
it's only a test. This is only a test.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
If we hear the cow, I'm gonna go crazy.
Which that
Well-
would be amazing because it's not working.
Hey, when I read it here, I was on my deck, I heard this cow, I went, what is going on?
Well, I had the mute on my TVs, and apparently the emergency broadcast test overrides that. So sorry about that.
Right? So
That's a great thing though. I didn't know that.
it'll wake you up.
Okay, all right, so our utility relief. Anita Duver, that's the first one that we picked up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a lot.
Yeah.
You know, on this one, and maybe you can clear it up, I went through all the back and forth, and finally seemed like the plumber said, well, the problem was it wasn't making ice and
Yes.
filling up and then draining. But did anybody find, where does it drain to? It out onto the floor, into the sewer system? Is that in there somewhere?
So the best thing, can you hear me okay, Doug?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I called the plumber about that because we weren't sure, and I went back and forth with Anita about this. We're not ice machine experts, if you can imagine. But because they didn't see anything leaking onto the floor, his best guess was that it was just draining into the central kitchen drain, which is filtered through the wastewater treatment plant. It seemed pretty cut and dry after talking to him.
Yeah. He had made note that it was recycling,
Right.
and we didn't understand what he meant by that. So that's why Tessa reached out and got further clarification from Anita. And she didn't know. So then Tessa went to the plumber, and like Tessa said, he said it was recycling, or what we refer to as recycling. It was not going on the floor, so most likely back into the system. And so that was our end answer on that.
Yeah, and I guess my only comment would be relief for the months, 3 months in a row. It's kind of like, I think you should be aware, not every quarter, So it's kind of like, it does build up, like Doug said, it's a high. So in other words, and I don't know if she had relief on water as far as if she had signed up yet.
Well,
High on water. So
It doesn't.
I can't remember if it was noted in there that the restaurant was on ion water or not.
They noted that they signed up, but they didn't know when they signed up.
yeah.
I'm just wondering if any of this matters, if the information we have, which seems reliable through Tessa, that it isn't released out onto the floor, it goes, all the ice that isn't being made and it's calling for water and fills up, it is going into the sewer system. So we don't grant relief for water leaks that go into the sewer system.
Yeah.
I mean, am I missing something?
No, it's, I just think that it probably should have been identified much earlier, that there was bills. So.
Well, I'm just thinking for the basis of the denial, if you start getting into the due diligence,
Correct, no,
which we'll get into a minute. I mean, if we're confident that all this excess water was from a tank and an ice machine filling and then draining into the sewer system, it's kind of the end of this story as opposed to any other speculation. I don't know how the rest of you feel, but it seems pretty easy if that's accurate.
Okay, do I have a motion on the floor?
Well, let's go ahead and describe what the motion is so we don't get back into.
Correct, that's what I would like to.
Denied staff recommendation.
Is the staff recommendation to deny?
Correct.
Well, I just think we ought to put put the reason in the motion each time. It's denied based on information that the recycling water entered the sewer system.
Okay, do you want to make that motion?
I move that this gets denied because the best information of the committee as of this point is that the recycled water entered the sewer system.
Do I have a second?
Yes, you do.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any more discussion? No? Okay. We will move on to the next one.
Oh.
It's Peggy need home.
Okay. Find Peggy here.
Is it, can you remember which one that is at the water heater?
Yes, correct.
Yes. Yeah, the new, yeah.
I think I would just said I had a broken water heater, which isn't real specific, but and I think the staff recommendation was to approve it, right?
That is correct.
Yes, and she did get it all lined up, and I think signed up for Iowa Water too.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, I don't see how a broken water heater is going to enter the sewer system. So if somebody wants to make a motion to approve the staff recommendation, I'm okay with that.
Okay, does anybody would like to make a motion to approve the staff recommendation?
I will.
Thank you, Scott. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any discussion? Okay,
This is Doug. It looks like there's only 3 of us here, which I know is a quorum. So is that right?
that is
Yes.
correct.
Okay.
All right, let's move on to the third one. that I just lost here.
The Elk Creek Road.
Creek Terrace,
Yep.
LP. Okay, discover a large water leak between buildings 1 and 2. Do I have a motion to approve staff recommendation?
Which was to approve, right?
That is correct. So
Seems pretty straightforward to me. So I'll
Yeah.
make a motion to approve the staff recommendation.
thank you.
And
Do I
I'll
have a second?
I do.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Any discussion? Nope. Okay. Approved. All right. Back to agenda. No, I think it's your turn. Yep, let's see. Hey Karen, I think it's your turn. I lost my agenda here somewhere.
My turn?
Yeah, I think it's your turn. Sorry. I lost the agenda here.
All I had on mine was no change to the projects that I gave you updates on last month.
Right.
But in your packet, you'll see the updated master plan that is kept on the website. And so if you guys haven't taken a look at that recently, that's been updated to reflect the current status of all the master plan projects we have in order. The other thing I wanted to do outside of making sure that we got the wording that will help us for the leak detection, which was specifically surrounding the leak, was for you guys to select a date that we can do the wastewater tour. And so you can do it 1 or 2 ways. You guys can toss dates out that would be good, but you're missing a couple people here today that you'd probably want to include. Or we can send out dates to you that would be great for staff to be able to host this tour. And you guys select a date. You couldn't do a reply all, but you could reply and let us know the dates that work for you. And then once we've heard from everybody, we can select from those dates on a common date that everyone is available for.
I like that.
Okay with that?
I am,
That would be-
because that way and I really am looking forward to going, because it was a great,
A great water tour.
right, water tour, and then the wastewater, we wanted to get a hold of it, yes.
And then you guys will really be up on how our infrastructure works for both water and wastewater. Okay. Doug, you good with that?
Yeah, I like the idea of just throwing out some dates and then doing some central coordination rather than trying to find each and every one of our schedules. I think that's great.
Okay,
Yeah, me too.
that's what we'll do. And then I'd like to turn it back over to Janae to kind of discuss the wording. And I think Doug was going to bring some recommendations, and I'll just preface it by saying the email that I sent out to you guys, giving you a courtesy heads up that someone had challenged one of our decisions, was in no way meant to be criticism for what you guys did.
No, I
I
understand.
think you guys did a great job. You spent the greater part of a year
Mhm.
tediously going through this, and you spent a lot of time and thought into the changes you made. The two items that we talked about during that time, one was the removal of the sentence on the form about irrigation.
Mhm.
That opened a whole new door for people to submit things relative to leak consideration. And I think for the most part, people will put these leak requests in hoping they get approval, and they haven't really clearly read the rules. So I think the more we define that on the form and in our policy, the better off it's going to be for not only the outside residents, but for staff to try to respond to those. And so I apologize for the confusion over that. Again, it wasn't meant to be criticism, but what would be helpful for me and Tessa is to have a clearly defined definition of what the committee considers a leak.
Great, very good.
So that you have over 50 definitions of a leak.
Yep.
And so I need you guys to define what that is. And then when we deny something or recommend the denial and you guys agree with it, then we have something we can point to in our documentation that says right here in our paperwork, it says that. Currently, we don't have that. And so that's what I'm asking the committee to zero in on for me. Then when I go to council next week or November 1st, I think I'm on the agenda, I'll be able to tell them not only the leak, challenge, if you will, from the resident, but then what the committee has done to further define the documentation. And if they're agreeable to those changes, they'll be able to vote on that and we can get that in place.
That's great. And
Okay.
for one, I want to let you know that I welcome all feedback.
Okay, and thank
I think it's very constructive.
Yep.
And sometimes you can find something that you weren't aware of.
Yep.
And I believe in sometimes you have to agree to disagree
Yeah, that's right.
because,
I just really appreciate the work of this committee.
FCS.
Easy to work with, and I really respect and appreciate all of you guys. It is a committee I really enjoy being a part of.
Yep.
And so please don't misinterpret
Nope.
this first challenge we got.
No,
And I think it will be somewhat of a good news story when we go back to council and say we've had a chance to look at this again and we further made this change. And even if the person gets denied, which I'm sure they will, but we've still been able to work it out and the customer understands why it's been denied. I actually called him and talked to him and gave him a heads up that it would be on the agenda, invited him to come and be able to speak. And I further explained how the committee looks at a leak. And he reminded me that that wasn't on the documentation, that had he known that, it would have helped him. And I explained that that's why we didn't have it in the letter, because there was nothing that I could point to, that it was more of a failure of an apparatus that didn't really fall into the leak category.
But we're trying to make it more and more foolproof,
Right
so it's just,
here.
right.
unfortunately, we have to do that.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but it has to be done,
Yep.
so.
Yep.
Thank you.
So that's where we are on that. So I'm going to hand it back to you guys and see if we can work out some language.
So go ahead.
No, you're on.
This is Doug. I did do some work prior to this meeting and prior to other meetings and over the months and so forth. And I'll do a quick little overview here. But I will say I know you're under a gun maybe for time, but I think this is kind of our one shot at a definition and wrapping this tightly. And I'm just kind of a little reluctant to try to do that with only 3 of us here, but
Amber should be joining us soon. She's stuck with a meeting, so she will.
okay.
But
Okay.
I think this is not rocket science. I think we can make it work.
Okay, well,
Oh, yeah.
let me start out by saying that when I did all the research here, probably a few years ago now, I pulled it back out again. My stack is, dwindling and getting messy. But once again, I think where we kind of get crosswise is, unlike other jurisdictions, we don't define leaks. Every other jurisdiction had a definition. So that's one of the first issues. But I wanted to start by pointing out, probably most of us know this, but we have a city ordinance, Tessa can probably pull it up, 13.18.080, that says leakage. And paragraph A says, customers will keep all pipes and fixtures of the customer line in repair. Repeat that. Customers will keep all pipes and fixtures of the customer line in repair at their own expense and will be held liable for any leakage and all damages which may result from their failure to do so. So the city has obviously an expectation of good repair, proper maintenance, which I think we've kind of either didn't know about that or whatever. And that's going to be important in a minute. That's right in the ordinance, an expectation of good repair. And as far as definitions go, I mean, each jurisdiction's a little bit different, but you take Portland as an example, they define leak as an unintentional water loss caused by broken / or malfunctioning plumbing fixtures or pipes at a residence or building. That's their definition. And Sunrise Water Authority, leakage is defined as water loss as a result of any condition requiring the replacement or repair of water lines or fixtures. A customer is, and now over on Canby, a customer is found to have had an accidental and or unavoidable period of excessive water use. So they're kind of the same, focus on unintended, accidental, kind of like Portland's as the base actually, which is an unintentional water loss caused by broken and / or malfunctioning plumbing fixtures or pipes at a residence or building. That's a good start. But then a couple of jurisdictions have qualifiers on that. I think as far as Cannon Beach goes, they might be apropos. And those qualifiers are, give me a second here, large stack. Those qualifiers are kind of two qualifiers. Like the city of Tiger, they give leak relief, but it has to be despite proper maintenance and diligence on part of the customer / property owner, which captures what's in our ordinance, the expectation of proper maintenance. And then also the exception, this is from Tiger again, it cannot be from willful or negligent act on the part of the customer or property owner, which would cover like the lady that left her water on all night, just forgot. So coming full circle, I know that's fast, but if you go back to what we were discussing months ago on our for discussion only sheet here, there was already a definition or a proposed definition on that. And that was at that point, sort of the draft was customers who experience accidental, unintentional leaks despite proper maintenance and diligence by the customer. So we had almost everything except for not the result of willful actions or negligence. So to me, that's the complete definition that captures both the basic definition, our ordinance, and common sense about willful conduct or negligence. So there you go. I mean, we can schmooze the wording, but I don't see any gaps in that. Now, under that definition, if you went with that, the guy whose timer malfunctioned, I think he'd be granted relief if you went with that definition, because as far as we know, it wasn't negligent or willful, and it was there didn't seem to be a maintenance issue. and it was a failure of a component.
Right, okay, and I think those are good, very good, and I think we should plagiarize if we can, somebody that's already got something that's in effect that really works.
Yeah.
But I like the or fixtures. I don't think we have that because when you get into the pipes and leaks, you can also have a defective water heater, you can have a lot of fixtures that contribute to that, and that's still part of the owner's liability, is to keep those fixtures in working order. And I go back to the ice maker, that kind of thing. That's a fixture, and it may not have been the pipe, but the fixture caused the leak. It looks to me like they understood there was a leak, but later on they did it. But I would like to add the or fixtures. I think that would be a little bit better. But what you just
I like the basic Portland definition, and then supplemented by the two qualifiers, which is the maintenance and proper maintenance, and not due to willful conduct or negligence by the customer.
Right, and then we can always say, Big Brother, this is theirs. Portland. They've had studies, they've had engineers, they have this wording, and we adopt that. I think it's great.
May I make a suggestion?
Yes.
I like your wording, but I would add water line or associated plumbing fixtures.
Great, associated. Good.
Some people consider a timer, if it's part of the lineup of their plumbing, a fixture. And so that's where the one customer was unhappy when we denied the timer, and they challenged it, because that was all part of that lineup. So I think it's important to say associated plumbing fixture.
Totally agree.
Timer isn't associated with your pipe and the fixtures or fittings that go to the pipe. It is an auxiliary piece of equipment, but it isn't pertinent to the water flow. It may control it, but the water's not flowing through it. It's not part of the plumbing lineup where the water is routed, let's say.
I agree with you, Karen, but I wonder if that's just might cause more confusion. Once again, the language here is an unintended water loss caused by a broken and or malfunctioning plumbing fixture or pipes. That's really what you're saying.
I'm going to include the timer on a irrigation system as part of the plumbing fixture. That's what we need to define here, because that's what the challenge is that's coming before council that you've denied.
Right. And I would say it's whatever's in the water line, if you have a timer, any kind of a fixture in that setup, but I don't know exactly how you do it. But I think that the wording, you could say, I like associated, to be honest with you, associated or the fixture.
Amber's on.
Yeah.
Okay, Amber's on.
Yes.
Yeah, I kind of hate to start over. I think we're going down kind of a reverse road there, and trying to either make an exception, or if you say associated fixtures and you put it as part of the definition, then the timer would be covered. If you say an unintentional water loss caused by broken in or malfunctioning plumbing fixtures or pipes, and then you say in associated fixtures, you're going to cover more, not less.
All right.
The wording was associated plumbing fixtures. So my question to you is, if you just say associated, or your first wording was water line or fixtures.
Plumbing fixtures.
And I said insert or associated plumbing fixtures. And then you have to decide if someone has a setup similar to this person that's challenged, that where the timer is part of that run.
It is.
Are you considering that as a fixture? That's what we need to define.
Question, so hold on for a second.
Fixture.
Amber, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Amber.
I was going to say, I'm like, it's like we're just trying to encapsulate so that there isn't any wiggle room, right, in trying to get through this. So it's,
Correct.
I mean, Karen, I agree with you that it should be like attached and associated fixtures, plumbing fixtures.
Yeah.
But remember, if you put that in there, that means they're covered. They're covered. If
Oh,
you
boy,
say
yeah.
and associated, that means they're covered for a leak. Everybody see that?
Ah,
Are you trying to make an exception or not? I mean, right now,
We're trying to define what is a leak or what is not a leak.
right. And remember, before you got on, I went through all the jurisdictions, definitions. I went
Yeah.
through the Cannon Beach ordinance on proper maintenance. I went through the qualifiers that each jurisdiction uses to make exceptions to the general leak definition. And so now we're down to the basic definition that basically comes out of the city of Portland.
Yeah.
And to me, the basic definition is fine once you add the qualifiers. And I'm just getting confused with what we're doing here by adding an associated plumbing fixtures. You're widening eligibility. You're widening eligibility.
Doug, thank you so much for all the research that you've done. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Doug, why don't you go ahead and just read exactly what you're proposing?
right, that's
Okay.
correct. Yeah, word for word.
Okay, give me a second here. And this, again, this is the amalgamation of the basic definition and the exceptions that are commonly generated out of other jurisdictions. And
Yes, we just need the one that, the last one that you're proposing, that's the one that we need, so we don't get confused.
okay, just give me a second here.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, thank you.
I'm gonna write it down.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm going, yeah.
Okay.
Once you guys,
All right,
once
now-
you
now
guys
this-
stand on something, we'll have him send that to us so that Tess and I have that in writing and we're gonna regurgitate that right onto your documentation.
To me, it would be something like, or exactly like, the definition would be accidental, unintended leaks despite proper maintenance and diligence by the customer and not resulting from a willful act or negligence of the customer. Boom.
Okay,
Um,
I like that despite that word because,
the maintenance captures what's in our ordinance, which is an expectation of proper maintenance. Obviously, we don't want to cover people that leave their water on. That's negligence. Or somebody that damages their own pipes. That's the willful part. And then it's just the general definition of accidental or accidental unintended leaks despite proper maintenance and diligence by the customer. Now, that first part does not follow Portland exactly when they talk about pipes and fixtures. So that's really the only other thing to me that really needs to be decided is whether you want to go with a general unintended use of water, like most jurisdictions do, or, let me go back to it here, or start with the general Portland definition that goes on a little farther. Intentional water use, unintentional again, caused by broken and or malfunctioning public fixtures or pipes at a residence or building. And then the rest would be the same, despite proper maintenance and due diligence of the customer and not the result of a willful or negligent act of the customer. Everybody get that nuance? It's the general definition before the qualifiers. I like the one that just says unintentional, which is very close to what other jurisdictions say, without getting into what's a fixture, what's not a fixture, what's a line, and what's not a line. It's just, I didn't intend to consume the water.
So just because I walked in late on this, and I'm sorry, I had a work call that extended into our meeting time. But my question, I guess my simple question is that this is a function of, are we letting people who say they have a leak due to a attached fixture get away with utility relief or not? And so I'm on the side of, I don't care what fixture you have. It's your responsibility to make sure it's functioning before you leave to go out of town at your second home.
amen. I agree with you.
And so,
Right.
Doug, I appreciate
Right, no,
all
just next second, that would be covered then, because
That'd be covered,
To
okay.
me, that would be part of, once again, the qualifiers work. You're talking about due diligence by the customer. So if you wanted to deny it, that qualifier's in there. You know, it says, say, despite due diligence of the customer. So under your point, Amber, you would say that wasn't due diligence. It would be covered in the language.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think you guys are getting a little bit of a flavor of why in past history,
Yes.
the sentence was on there excluding irrigation issues from being considered.
And that makes it easier on the staffs when we talk to customers.
Definitely narrows it down. It definitely puts the focus on water conservation.
Right.
And it definitely makes it easier for staff to interpret these kind of things for the customer. Because when you get into irrigation, you have a myriad of fixtures that are associated with irrigation.
Oh, I agree.
Which are in the path of the water.
Correct.
And so you're going to have these kind of challenges. And that's why we had this discussion when we made that change in the form. Whatever you guys want to do, but your definition is going to have to be zeroed in enough where it helps staff be able to do that. Because both of these definitions that you guys are tossing around here, if you really look at that, you go back to the gentleman that's going to be before council, his timer would qualify as a forgiveness. And we
Wow.
denied it.
And but with the Portland, number one, as a benchmark, Portland is a big city, millions of people. They got all sorts of businesses, residents, and they have probably worked this down to where it is despite and the due diligence and that kind of thing. And so it's probably been wordsmithed quite a bit.
And also, let's not forget, under the Cannon Beach ordinance, everybody's always going to pay for the water. They're always going to pay for the water, regardless of denying or approving. They're always going to be on the hook for the water. So I think we get into an intellectual thing where we've really got to ramp down the definitions, because, you know, otherwise they get relief from the water bill. They don't. They never do. Under any circumstance. I think we keep forgetting that. And
I agree with Karen, though, the irrigation part should be back because that will avoid a lot of.
Yes.
So I talked to the team, my team, and then I talked to other people that used to be on our committees over the years of 10 years or more. This is the feedback I've gotten, is that they had to simplify it because of the irrigation complexities. There's not a ton of people here in Cannon Beach that irrigate their yard on a regular basis.
Right.
It's a pretty small audience, but they said that there was frequent requests associated with leak reliefs.
That makes sense.
Okay.
So it's your call.
Okay. Well,
Do we have the definition, the one that we had, the previous one?
There was no leak definition on the previous documentation. What the sentence was that irrigation leaks would not be considered for leak
So we
relief,
should
and it was
be able to
bolded.
toss that in there.
now, Doug, in the Portland, definition, would that be covered, irrigation be covered in that, or?
probably an unintentional water loss caused by broken and or malfunctioning plumbing fixtures or pipes at a residence or building. Doesn't say where.
And an irrigation system is an associated
Yeah.
fixture.
Part
Yeah.
of plumbing, for
So, I
sure.
mean,
It is, but I don't think public is going to understand that. So that's where it comes in.
Well, then
People
you-
ask the questions. And that's why it doesn't take that much time to just add that little line.
Right, and what we could do at the very end, just say, and this includes irrigation systems. Whatever. I mean, if that's really that important.
Now you're going to say it doesn't include irrigation.
It excludes irrigation.
Excludes, well.
Yes.
Is it, for the purposes of this meeting, is
No,
it possible
excludes, I'm sorry.
for the purposes of this meeting, is it possible to just have the two sentences on a sheet shared with the committee so that we can see them in print and just
Yeah.
like expedite the process so we don't have to spend the whole meeting talking about a sentence?
Well, I think there's, Amber, I think there's maybe two alternatives here in terms of language. I think it's very difficult to do it verbally like this, but also we can't have another public meeting, or we can't have a public meeting. And I think Karen is pushing to have something by November 1st at
I
the,
think it's a good idea. I don't
Good.
think Karen is pushing it, but I think it's a good idea to have it done by the next meeting.
Me too.
Yeah, it's your call. It's not my
Agreed.
intent to force you to make a decision today. So if you're not ready, don't do it. And I'll just let the council know that the committee has taken this back to look at it again. And they'll make a decision on the leak relief based on the fact you guys have, at this point, made no changes to the process.
So what I think we should do is we have already the Portland definition that we like. We just need to add the irrigation part, which is not a big
Excluding.
deal. It's just,
Right.
it's.
Well-
So if Tessa could work that out.
and the two qualifiers, just proper maintenance and not willful act or negligence by the customer. I think those are important, especially given the philosophy of our ordinance.
I agree. So if Tessa writes that down, sends that to us via email, and then you can respond just to Tessa and Karen, whether that's appropriate or not.
Just let me think here. Since I've got everything in front of me, could I send it to Tessa?
Right?
Two alternatives. And then, no? You want me to do that?
No, go
I
ahead.
think we already have a consensus, Dylan. Read that first one.
Yes.
Okay, so, all right, if there's a consensus, tell me what it is, because we'll see. What's the consensus?
But, no, I like the Portland definition,
Okay,
but we want to make sure that we exclude irrigation.
So Scott, hold on. I think
Go ahead.
Tessa's got it.
Yeah, Tessa, go ahead.
So I have Doug's full sentence with those two stipulations, and then if I'm understanding correctly, we wanted to refer to the old form, which I don't have in front of me, I can grab it if need be, that specified that this excludes exterior features and irrigation systems.
That's what the sentence said, something about irrigation and exterior features.
Yeah.
Like a water fountain, water feature they might have in their yard or something like that would be excluded.
Exterior faucets where
Right.
a hose might have been attached.
Right.
Et cetera.
Right.
Any of that.
Or internal accessory add-ons to their plumbing system. So like it goes both ways, right? It's internal, external. We want to make sure that we're capturing all use cases.
Can you reread that sentence, Tessa? Just what you have there?
I would have to go grab the old one if you.
Oh, no, I mean the one that you captured from Doug.
Yeah, it says accidental unintended leaks despite proper maintenance and diligence by the customer and not resulting from a willful act or negligence by the customer.
right, and that's, once again, I gotta go back, that's not following, and that's not your fault, Tess, at all. That's not following the Portland definition, that's following a general definition that other jurisdictions use that just says unintentional. So if you really want to try to get this where I think we want to get it, you can use the Portland definition, which is an unintentional water loss caused by broken and or malfunctioning plumbing fixtures or pipes as a residence or building, despite proper maintenance and not due, and just once more, an unintentional water loss caused by broken and or malfunctioning plumbing fixtures or pipes at a residence or building, and not occur, and despite proper maintenance and due diligence of the customer, and not occurring as a result of willful or negligent act of the customer. That's it. I mean, that's, I'm kind of getting done. That's the Portland definition that has the qualifiers in it that I think is consistent with our ordinance about proper maintenance, and the qualifier about not a willful or negligent act of the customer captures people that leave their water on. And then if you want to go on and say all irrigation systems and items are excluded, then I think you've thrown a net over the whole thing that I think is pretty clear.
Okay.
Doug, can you send that exact sentence to Tess and I, please?
Yeah, I can do that. And I said, if you can work how you can put that out without, convening as a meeting. And I'll just throw it out as a straw man, because I know it's difficult when you're doing everything verbally here. And
Right.
Right, and that's why if if you send it to them, that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Great.
We, we have it pretty close. I don't think, yeah.
So I
Okay.
I agree with Doug. I think that's a much tighter definition.
Yes,
I think that the resident could be confused about that. I think it addresses all pulse points that we've kind of talked about.
Yep.
You exclude the irrigation, takes that off the table. It really enforces water conservation, but the forgiveness is still available for unintended things that happen. And so I
Yes.
think you found the balance.
despite, yeah.
Right. And I'll be happy to do that. Just, who should my target be? Because obviously I can't disseminate it out to the whole committee.
Tessa.
Tessa.
Tessa will. Yeah.
All right, so watch your email. It'll probably be tomorrow. And it'll be pretty easy for me, but today is a mess. And then you can decide how to punch it out. But actually, guys, I really think we have an agreement, consensus here. It's just hard when we're going back and forth verbally. That way you'll have it right in front of you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Doug, for all your work. We appreciate it.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. You're welcome.
That's
Okay.
great.
Right. I think that was it. That's- Woo.
That's what I call that an ankle biter.
Doug would say.
Those ankle biters are.
Nice, well done. Okay. Did we have anything for a bit of the order?
Wow.
Since Amber's back, I just want to reconfirm that I'll send you guys dates that
Yes.
staff could host a tour at the wastewater plant.
Mhm.
And I would ask that you guys respond back saying, out of the list of dates, here's the ones that you would be available to go on the tour.
Mhm.
Don't just pick one. Give me all out of the selection, how many you could accommodate. This would be like a manual doodle poll, if you will. And then out of everything that everybody says they're available, we'll land on the date that everybody can be there.
Great.
Okay, does that work?
Yes.
Yes.
Swim trunks.
Okay,
Bring
All right.
swim trunks.
that's right.
Yeah.
Swim trunks.
No, that sounds gross.
Stop.
Well, we figured the water tour was a
Yeah.
little mundane. We thought we'd kick it up a bit on the wastewater tour,
Kick it up.
At least it'll be after the summer. Maybe the volume of all that quote unquote crap going through will be down a little bit.
Yeah, the forecast this weekend is supposed to start raining.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
All right, I'll see you later. Amazing.
All right, Doug.
Right.
All right.
Thanks,
See
you
ya.
guys.
Can we move to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Please let us adjourn, yes.